Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe. The video I'm about to share is of an ex-Israeli soldier who unveils shocking secrets. Now, I don't know how true this is, but I also need answers to know if what he is saying is the truth. Of late, a lot of information has been coming out following the Israel versus Palestine war. Some things or information are shocking, some are questionable, some are already written and known facts, but it's like new information just keeps on popping up every day. In this video, this ex-soldier agrees or confirms the allegations of Israel stealing Palestinian land. He shares his experience when he was sent into the West Bank to protect settlements. And this is when he began to understand that they were slowly expanding, taking over Palestinian land. Hamas got stronger in many ways because of their efforts, and what he learned was that his government facilitated the transfer of hundreds of millions of dollars, which went to Hamas from Qatar. And at the same time, they tried to defund and delegitimize the Palestinian factions and organizations that recognize international law, that renounce violence and recognize the state of Israel. Check out this video. I will be right back.
I served in the West Bank and in the Special Forces unit that I was in for 8 months. And I really thought that this thriving Jewish society in the land of Israel was something that I needed to be part of. And I knew that all of that was only possible because Israel had a strong military that had defended it time and time again. That started changing when I was actually sent into the West Bank to protect settlements. And I began to understand that they were slowly expanding, taking over Palestinian land.
And did you approve at the time of the expansion or not?
I think before I went in, I approved of it. When I saw what it actually meant, and I saw that we were just imposing a military regime over Palestinian civilians, I began to question it.
You've written very movingly about your experience and your conversion, if you like, after you were in Gaza as an IDF soldier. Just tell us about what it was like to do house-to-house combat in Gaza.
When I was sent in, we were told we have to provide this perimeter for the engineer corps to demolish attack tunnels that had gone into Israel. And we were told that all the civilians had fled. It wasn't true. There was a family that we found in the second neighborhood we went into, in the Al-Bura neighborhood of Beit Hanun. Even though we were going into every house with live fire, they managed to understand that this was an innocent family and they didn't harm them. They gave them food and gave them water, and they guarded them for many days. But I found out this actually later. When we pulled out, the Air Force just flew over that neighborhood and bombarded it, and they were killed.
That family?
That family, yeah.
All along you were told by your commanders that this was to eliminate the Hamas threat. And how did that work out?
Not only did we not eliminate the threat, but actually Hamas got stronger in many ways because of our efforts. What I learned was that my government facilitated the transfer of hundreds of millions of dollars, which went to Hamas from Qatar. And also, at the same time, we tried to defund and delegitimize the Palestinian factions and Palestinian organizations that recognize international law, that renounce violence.
And recognize the state of Israel.
And recognize the state of Israel and are willing to negotiate with the state of Israel.
So why were they doing that, do you think?
What has been written and what has been stated openly by even senior members of this current government, including Netanyahu, is that they considered Hamas to be an asset. And because their ultimate goal was not to defeat Hamas, their ultimate goal was to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state. And it was actually convenient and useful to have the Palestinian leadership split.
Now, as I was carrying out my research, I found an article that says why Israel lets Qatar give millions to Hamas. This is a story about Middle East cooperation that seems to defy all the rules. Israel's long-standing policy has been to isolate Hamas, the Islamist group that dominates the Gaza Strip. And Israel has long accused Qatar of financing Hamas, including providing money used for arms fired into Israel last war. So why then would Israel permit a Qatari official to visit Gaza and spend tens of millions of dollars in the coastal territory? The official is Mohammed Al-Emadi, and he says Qatar is using the money in Gaza to help the Palestinian people, not Hamas. But if you want to help Gaza, he says Hamas is your best contact. You have to support them. You don't like them, but they control the country, Emadi says during a visit to Gaza. On a recent trip, he traveled between Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza to talk about badly needed reconstruction construction projects, including 1,000 new homes. Gaza, which was already extremely poor, suffered massive damage during 7 weeks of intensive fighting during the last war. Now in Israel, Emadi met with business people and with the Israeli Brigadier General in charge of permitting goods and people in and out of Gaza. Emadi had just left that meeting when a Arafat from Gaza landed in southern Israel. Emadi says he immediately called his contacts in Gaza to see if Hamas had launched it. I called these people. I told them, you're crazy. They said, no, it's not us, and they control the situation. They catch the guy, he says. Now, former head of research for Israel's military intelligence says that there's one good reason Israel is helping Qatar help Gaza. Nobody else is ready to help but Qatar, he says. Now, he says that because Hamas is not only a militia but also the de facto government, improving life in Gaza could deter Hamas from war. We believe that better conditions in Gaza would lessen the incentive of Hamas and the population to go again to a war, he says. So in a way, it is helping the deterrence, but the purpose is to improve the conditions of the people of Gaza and enable them to live a respectable life. A Hamas spokesperson said Israel is facilitating Qatar mainly to deflect criticism over the war destruction and the continued restrictions of materials going into Gaza. One Israeli who knows Qatar well says aiding Qatar's work in Gaza is a new Israeli policy. I'm very surprised because I don't believe that this should be the way, says Elia Vida, who used to run an Israeli trade office in Qatar and recently published a book about that experience called The Abyss. The trade office operated for more than a decade, although Israel never had an embassy. He says after the war, international pressure on Qatar grew to stop financing Hamas armed wing. Israel's approach now undermines that, he says. Providing the Qataris with the ability to do something like this enables the Qataris to maintain their policy that on the one hand supporting terrorism and on the other hand appearing in the international community as a positive factor in the region. Now, I also took some time to take a look at a few comments and just hear what people had to say about this. This one says, I can't believe this has been going on for 40 years and I was an Israel supporter. I don't know how blind I was. Thanks to TikTok. Respect for this brave man for speaking up. He also had an interview on CNN. Please, everyone, go watch it. It is very eye-opening. Keep sharing the truth. Qatar is a pawn of Israel in many ways and also a major shareholder in the major mining company operating in Congo. They are not loyal to Arabs. The veil over the eyes is eventually coming off. See the light. The liberation of Palestine is vital. Don't forget they need the land to make a canal. It needs to be stopped. They should be prevented from doing it because it's all about greed and power. Glad they've let him talk without interruption this time. He's telling you who Israel is and their motives, which are real. The West Bank is next. Actually started after they finished Gaza. Okay, these are some of the comments from people and I would really love to hear your take on this as well. So share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.